campus Democrats and Republicans have advised the independent voters before Tuesday.
Also, understanding anti-Semitism throughout history to now.
I've got your ditv pregame show coming up in sports.
The Hawkeyes are on the road for a second straight week, but this time the conditions will not be the same as last week. Find out more on weather.
All that and more coming up on this Friday morning edition of ditv.
Don't go anywhere. ditv starts right now. Good morning and thank you for tuning in to this Friday, November 2nd edition of ditv. I'm Jahisha Thomas.
And I'm John Chenoweth. The important midterm elections are coming up on Tuesday, and I was curious to see what advice Republicans and Democrats had to give to independent voters in relations to the recent Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court controversy. I conducted one interview with a Republican and one interview with a Democrat. This is how it unfolded. With the midterm elections taking place next Tuesday, I set out on a mission to find out what advice both a Republican and a Democrat could give to independent voters who still have the Kavanaugh Supreme Court conflict fresh in their minds. Who better to talk to than members of college Republicans and university Democrats? I traveled to Schaefer Hall to speak with a college Republican, and this is the advice they had for independent voters.
So I think that all the independent voters really look at the actions of the Democratic Party during this conflict and how low that they will go, that they will use something as terrible as sexual assault to further their political agenda and really harm so many people in this with false allegations and lack of evidence, and just really do your research and don't believe everything that you see, and just really understand who you're voting for and who you want to represent us after this whole scandal has occurred.
With the Kavanaugh Supreme Court appointment being arguably the most contentious Supreme Court appointment battle in recent history, it probably comes to no surprise that the University Democrats' advice to independents was a bit different than the college Republicans. I traveled to Phillips Hall to speak with the University Democrat, and this is the advice they had for independent voters.
I think that the most important thing to think about is that sexual assault can happen to anyone. It can happen to people you know, people you don't know. I work with a lot of people who have been assaulted, and I'm a survivor myself, and so what you should know is that as soon as that confirmation came through, this was something that affected so many people in such a negative way. Their trauma has now been turned into this, well, does it really matter? And it's been completely discredited. And I just think that someone needs to be held accountable for this, because it's not okay to have a sexual assault perpetrator on the Supreme Court.
I'm John Chenoweth, reporting from the Pennycrest for ditv News.
Thanks, John. It was amazing that you were able to get such a close insight with such a sensitive topic. And last night, the UI Department of History held a public panel last night in Schaefer Hall about understanding anti-Semitism.